guys, it's time for another tiny house video tour. So let's get started. This week's video is brought to you by Humless, solar power on the go.
Hi, I'm MJ and this is My Tiny Perch. I started building my first tiny house, My Empty Nest, in 2014. I finished it in 2015. It's completely transformed my life. I used to live in a 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom kind of normal house, and now I live in a tiny house and I love it. So this is actually my second house. I think the tiny house movement presents so many of us with an amazing, life-changing opportunity to live in a minimal, simple lifestyle. For me, it means freedom, it means creative opportunities, it also means a really flexible life as well. I'm super lucky because I have access to a beautiful 7-acre abandoned Christmas tree farm just outside of Sherwood, Oregon. I lease it from some landowners. They decided they don't want to sell Christmas trees anymore, and I can put as many tiny houses as I want. I look forward to the day when this becomes my own little tiny community. So this is it. She's only 148 square feet, so 8 foot wide by 18.5 feet long. This is a galley kitchen. It's really just made for, making coffee or snacks. But I actually do have included enough equipment where people could make full meals as well. The sink is actually from IKEA. I really like it because it's actually big enough to fit pots and pans. I didn't want everything to be really square. I wanted it to be sort of soft and memorable. This is a refrigerator that I also love because of the fact that it actually has a dedicated freezer. And surprise, surprise, my refrigerator is stocked with wine. Right here where we're standing, we're actually within 15 minutes of 10 wine tasting rooms. So it's going to be a great location for that. With most tiny houses, you have to take advantage of every single square inch that you have available. So the cubbies over there are just another example of that. If you take the screws off of the frame, the bookshelves actually slide out in one piece. So if there's ever any problems with the plumbing or electrical, it's all behind the bookshelves. I originally thought I was going to have a living room, but I thought an eat-in kitchen made a lot more sense. I paid a friend of mine, I paid an artist to actually paint this checkerboard on the table. So I have games and books. And when you go to a party, everybody always goes to the kitchen anyway. So in this case, they really don't have any choice. I never thought that I would go this far, right? I knew that I wanted to build a tiny house and live in a tiny house so that I could actually maybe someday retire. But as the tiny house movement has grown and as tiny houses have become that much more popular, suddenly I had like this aha moment. Like there's really, we'll call it 4 different ways in the tiny house movement that you can make money. There's builders and bloggers and websites, and I like the hostess part. And I like the fact that I get to keep building. I love projects, I love being creative. This plan kind of scratches all my itches. The bathroom is as tiny can be. And for this, for this tiny, I decided to have a tub. And even though it's almost like too small to be functional, I love my little tub. Of course, I can shave my legs. I can, our guests can wash their dogs or their babies, but I love my little tub shower. And for as small as it is, it actually feels pretty comfortable as far as, functionality. So one of the things that's also different is that I provide all 100% biodegradable shampoos and soaps. So my guests will have the opportunity to experience something different, something a little bit more environmentally friendly. And then, of course, I love my Nature's Head composting dry toilet. So that's how I actually take care of the real waste, the real stuff.
Are you nervous at all about people using the composting toilet?
I'm super nervous, actually. You can give someone a manual, and I don't know, are they actually going to read it before they have to go? Or do they have to go and then they're not going to read it? Like, I'm super nervous about that part.
Because there is a little bit of a learning curve, right?
Yeah, a little bit. One of the things, like, for instance, you always have to keep the lid down because that's how it stays, smell free. That's like To me, that makes a lot of sense. But I know a lot of people actually leave it lit up all the time. And of course the little hatch opening, that's super important. And if people don't do that, it's probably going to make a mess. I try to be as informative as I can be regarding the composting toilet, because I think it's a unique experience. I think if you really want to try on tiny, if you really want to do something different, stay in 148 square feet and use a composting toilet. You have lots of really great stories. All of my tiny houses are going to be very, very, very different. So I think people will get a really special appreciation that every tiny house is, what they say, as unique as your fingerprint, and they all have a lot of value, and they can all provide an entirely different experience from one to the other. So this is my bedroom / lounge, I guess you could call it. The bed frame itself lifts up so that when people want to put their luggage away, it's pretty easy. I actually had a custom mattress that was made specifically for this exact space. So it's not a queen and it's not a double. It's actually a custom mattress because I wanted it to fill the entire space and not have big gaps one way or the other. This actually used to be a bathroom cabinet, which was over the sink of my boyfriend's parents' house that was built in the 1940s. So I hauled this cabinet out of a house in Washington State and brought it down here and refurbished it. Everything here is customized in some way or the other. Even the curtain rods I made myself from scratch because I wanted them to be really functional, really easy to use. But that means a lot more work than just going to the store and buying curtain rods. So when I actually start a tiny house design, I always start with what I call an inspiration piece. It's normally a piece of fabric, and then the piece of fabric actually drives the design throughout the entire house. So if it's a more modern piece of fabric like this is, that's what drives the design. I wanted it to be colorful. I wanted it to be happy. I wanted it to be modern and really bright. So you'll see most of the pattern, of course, is in these curtains. And when they're all closed, it really actually also kind of serves as almost art on the walls. If you lay here on this bed and you look out, it is the coolest view. It feels almost like a treehouse. This is an NB wall heater. They say it actually heats 150 square feet. I totally agree with them. The fans actually force the hot air from the ceiling back down to the floor. So it's more than adequate for the 148 square feet that I have until it hits about 30 degrees. Then I have to add another little heater or something. And that really is probably because of all my windows. I think my R value is probably a little lower than you might expect because of all the windows. Actually spent $19,694. For my land house, I actually have what's called a flat fee. So every tiny house that's on the land, I pay a flat fee. Currently, my flat fee is actually less than $100 per month, and that includes all my utilities and Wi-Fi and water and electricity and everything. Once the houses actually turn into money makers, then my landowners also get to share in that as well. Plus, I put a lot of work into the infrastructure and a lot of work into cleaning and keeping the place up as well. All of my houses are paid for with cash and sponsorships. So I think it's a really good investment of other people's materials and time. I do have a full-time corporate America job, so I do all of this on top of that. But when all four are up and running, I won't have to work for corporate America anymore, which is great. The goal for my first tiny house was to reduce my overall living expenses. The goal for these 4 tiny houses in the village will be to increase my income. And when you do the math, it looks pretty cool. I look forward to spending a lot more time not working. Regarding the legalities of tiny houses, they're not exactly illegal, but they're not fully legal. So that means that I'm taking a bit of a risk. I'm on the down low. I'm at the end of a long gravel road in the middle of the woods. Nobody knows I'm here except for the renters. Maybe someday someone could come along and say, you can't do that. But the truth is, it's also a mobile village. If I can't end up being here for whatever reason it is, for my land host or my neighbors or some, authority that says I can't be here, no problem. Well, I wouldn't say no problem, but at least I can know that I can take my tiny house village somewhere else if I have to. I think I'll always live in a tiny house, and when I have so many to choose from, if I get tired of one, I can always move to the other one.
I hope you guys enjoyed this tour. If you did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks with a brand new video. See you later.